right, as a true entrepreneur, we're going to learn from this man today. He's an all-star. I am honored to have his request come through this inbox, excuse me. Not only is he a globally recognized keynote speaker, #1 best-selling author of The Power of Playing Offense, and Chief Impact Officer for PurposePoint. He's done a lot of work in sports, and that's what I'm really excited to learn a lot about. He's known for transforming underperforming NBA teams into top financial performers and breaking every premium revenue metric in Super Bowl history as the NFL's sales leader. 15 years experience in professional sports executive roles and as the founder of the San Francisco 49ers Talent Academy. Paul, I'm really looking forward to this journey. Thanks for taking some time to stop by.
Of course, Vincent, fired up to be here.
All right, everyone tuning in. This is That Entrepreneur Show. I gave a little preview of what to expect today, but this is the show meant for high achievers and those looking to tap into new levels of success. I have the very, very big privilege of sitting down with founders from all around the world each week since December 2019. And today, like I said, we have an all-star with us. He's got so much to offer. And I am excited to share that this summer's episodes will be brought to you in part by speaker coach Cesar Cervantes, specializing in helping you get your transformative message to the TEDx stage. Guaranteed. To schedule your free brainstorming session, visit the link in the show description or cesarcervantes.tv. And his unique insights into leadership, as well as his experience in transforming these underperforming teams, make him a great guest. We're touching on culture building, leading change, and coaching high-performing teams. But what I want to start out with this show is something we just spoke about backstage a bit. He's got this new book geared up for next month to be released. Let's talk about that and how it can help entrepreneurs.
100%. So the new book is called Better Decisions Faster. And I couldn't think of anybody in the world that makes not only more decisions, but has to make them better and faster than the entrepreneurial community, right? I mean, for a lot of us, it's a matter of whether our company survives, whether our idea, it goes beyond birth and actually grows and scales. And also, like a lot of folks that are listening into this, we have this amazing mission, this amazing purpose, and this amazing idea. But then how does that manifest into, the way I call it is the 5 Ps, right? So we start with the purpose, then we invite people to join us for the journey, then we create process, then we measure performance, and we hope to achieve profits. And all that synchronicity in the 5 Ps is how I think about the entrepreneurial journey. And embedded in each one of those are critical decisions. And so I realized, whether as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, or beyond, that business and life are nothing more than a game of decisions and actions. Period, point blank. If I was to tap into any human on earth, myself, yourself, anybody listening in, and if I could audit the quality of your decisions in the past, your career, your relationships, your health, show me the quality of your decisions, I'll show you the quality of your life. Period, point blank. And so with that universal truth, I then started to do a lot of research on this. And this is kind of a crazy but fun fact. The average adult makes 35,000 decisions in a day. 35,000. Think about that. 35,000. So of course, a majority, they're on autopilot. But then we all know, especially as an entrepreneur, there's that critical handful every single day. So strategy A or B, team, do I hire or fire? Do I spend my time on X or Y? What priorities, what initiatives, all these things. And the right calls compounded consistently can absolutely skyrocket our company and our life. But then the wrong calls, and it's a fundamental death blow to our company, to our morale, to our happiness, to our fulfillment, all of that. And so when I realized that business and life are nothing more than a game of decisions, I then ask people, so how do you go about making your decisions? What's your process? What's your system? And the majority of people look at me with a blank stare. They have no process. They have no system. So I was like, okay, all right. I like the pure entrepreneurial, as they say, we are problem solvers at our purest, right? So I felt there was a problem in the market. These decisions that are so critical, nobody has a go-to process. So instead of complaining about it, I created a solution for it. And I went back to the lab for years with my team to say, how can we create a scalable solution to help people step into the most critical forks of the road in business and life with unshakable confidence. So that way, problems like decision fatigue and overwhelm become things of the past, and we no longer get paralyzed at those forks in the road. And then we make the worst decision, which is indecision. And so the book is not just about shining a light on the problem. The solve is what I call the head, heart, hands equation. So I'll break it down. It'll take 30 seconds. Head is your mindset. Yeah, head is your mindset. Heart is your authenticity. And hands are the action that either follow or don't follow. So the equation is head plus heart equals hands, meaning for all the entrepreneurs out there, everybody listening in, if your hands are the action, when deciding whether to take action or not, there's two checkpoints, head and heart. Head is, do I think it's a good idea? Heart is, do I feel it's a good idea? And when they're both on board, just like a traffic signal, green light, LFG, take the action. When neither is on board, red light, no action or stop doing it. And if only one of the two, your head or your heart is on board, that's a yellow light. And so simple and direct. I wrote the book to attract more green lights in our business and in our life. I wrote the book to create awareness so that we stop running reds. And then I wrote the book to navigate the messy middle of yellow. And those three elements to me are the key to being a kick-ass entrepreneur.
I love that. And I've been typing up some notes to go along when it comes live. We'll have to stay in touch. Shoot me a message when you're getting ready to go live with that book. We can put you on Writing with Authors, the YouTube series meant for book lovers, writers, and everyone in between. That way we can talk specifically on that. I love what you said there, how judgment calls compound, decision fatigue. I think these are all things that often get overlooked. And we have the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musks, those one in a millions that people compare entrepreneurship to, when really behind the scenes, you go through not only decision-making, 35 decisions, but the roller coaster up and down of success, failure. And those are things directly tied to that. Thank you so much. But now I really want to open up on this. You've been in sports for quite some time. You founded your own area in that sector. What is your greatest lesson learned from all these sports experiences, whether that you can really tie it to entrepreneurship, I should say?
For sure. So sports companies, well, let's say I worked for 3 NBA teams and I worked for the NFL league office. I worked for a global agency. And then most recently for about a 5-year run from about 2013 to 17, I was an executive with the 49ers. So we were riffing off camera about, you're a Jets guy, I'm a Niners guy. So you got Saleh. Saleh's my guy. So he was at the Niners when we were there, and
nothing bad to say about him.
Nothing bad, man. And I'll say this, from locking arms with him, even though I was more on the business side and he was clearly with the team, off stage, off camera, when the lights are off, he is a good, great human being, solid character, great values. And that probably is one of the bigger insights that I could share. When you say, how does sports tie into the entrepreneurial world? For me, I think of it as, the challenge with the entrepreneurial space is, I think we get so obsessed about the original idea and the mission. And there is a great purpose that comes with that. Mm-hmm. So the beauty of the entrepreneurial space is, I would argue, it's way more purpose driven than a big box company that's been around for 100+ years. And so while a sports team, in many cases, they're decades old, generations old, it really depends on what team and organization we're talking about. But by size, they're not massive companies. It's a 250 to 500 person company that's got a global brand. And so the reach and the amplification is massive, and it's got a lot of sex appeal. But by head and heart count, by people count, it ain't that big. And so where I learned a lot of my cultural insights that I believe can be attached to the entrepreneurial space, it was bigger than my time in sports, because to me, if people and culture are a competitive advantage, I believe that culture gets really hard once you can't all sit around the same table. So meaning, I don't think it's hard to manage culture with a 4 or 5 person organization, right? You're a budding entrepreneur, you've got a couple of your buddies, and bam, you've got this dream and this mission. I don't think culture is hard at that scale. It's like, if you're aware and if you've got good relationships and people skills and EQ, you're going to be all right. In sports, kind of similar, like 250 people, still not that massive.
Yeah.
But then when I take my Jerry Maguire leap out of sports and I started doing consulting across industry, my biggest client to date was one of the top 2 airlines in the US. They've got 120,000 employees and they got 6,000 positional leaders. And I did work with all 6,000 in workshops and beyond. So then people in my network said, so what's the culture of the airline like? And I said, well, I don't know. Who's the leader? What department? What location? What floor of the building? That's the culture. Because when I would visit the airline, their HQ, floor 5, they were high-fiving. Floor 6, shh, watch out. Boss is around the corner.
Oh, man, yeah.
And Vincent, like, this is the crazy part. Floor 5 and 6 were not just the same company. They were the same department. But it was a drastically different weather system. So every single culture has infinite microclimates. And here's where we tie to entrepreneurial stuff. Even in a big company like that, when I would do my work with them, I said, look, all culture is local, because if floor 5 is warm and green and fuzzy and cozy, and then floor 6, I would visit and it was frigid and cold. The only difference were the people on each floor of the building. And so each person has their own weather system. Each person has their own microclimate. And so my challenge to every person listening in right now is, if you can either warm up a room or cool it off. When you go in a room or you hop on a Zoom meeting, you have 2 choices. You warm it up or you cool it off. The question is, are we aware of our own temperature? That's the key. And so whether sports, owning your weather system on the field or in the boardroom, I saw both. Whether as an entrepreneur, every day, regardless of the size of the team that we lead, even if it's just you're a solopreneur and it's just you right now, cool. Are you aware of your weather system every moment of every day? Because if you're not, your company's in trouble. And I realized that through this wonderful place called sports, and I got to stress test it in other industries. And I believe it's universally applicable to everybody listening in.
I'm loving the emphasis you're placing on this company culture idea and how you go from one floor to the next. It's just not the same. I've been in great company cultures and I've been in poor company cultures where you hear the boss coming and you get a pit in your stomach because you know it's going to be something crazy. That's one of the final straws that really put me all into entrepreneurship and got that 1 foot in from being out. Thank you really so much for highlighting that. I think that's something that everyone viewing on today, as you start to scale, you need to be aware of these things, how one mindset can be effectful in the right way, or it could be a negative spiral. It's kind of ties to your business as well. Company culture is a big thing over there. Let's talk about it. What do you want our listeners to know about your company that we have not touched on yet today?
For sure. So I'm the Chief Impact Officer of PurposePoint, and those 5 Ps I mentioned earlier, which again were purpose, people, process, performance, and profit. So every entrepreneur here, your idea, your company, your entrepreneurial venture, it started with a purpose. And then you invite people to join you for the journey. Then you create process, then you measure performance, and you hope to achieve profits. And the better you can do at all 5, then obviously that's longevity, that's sustainability, that's growth, that's scale, that's all those wonderful things we dream about. But here's the challenge is, if those are the 5 Ps, I think that over time, the older our company gets, we drift away from the first 2. So how connected are we to that original point of purpose?
Yes.
How much do we genuinely, like when I say people first from a stage as a keynote speaker, or everybody listening in, you've been on a panel and we say, oh, people first, people first. Yeah. For some people, that's a bumper sticker. Yep. For others, it's a way of life. And the moment that I walk into your office door, I can tell which is real. I can absolutely tell, just literally by sensing the energy when I walk in, just like a sports team. I walk in a locker room and within seconds, I can tell exactly what their culture is. I don't care if they won or lost. That's just an emotional thing. Emotions, I'm high, losing, I'm low. But trust me, a great culture that just lost a game still has a positive vibe to it, because there's resilience. I love that. There's this ability to adapt and be agile. There's a brotherhood or sisterhood, depending on who we're talking about. And so that's where my impact at PurposePoint comes, is I'm reminding folks to tap back into that original point of purpose, to remember that you needed people to help you build this wonderful thing that you're building. But then the older we get, we disconnect from that purpose. Mm-hmm. It gets a little cloudy. And then people aren't put first because we maybe grew too fast. Maybe we over prioritize scale. And sometimes we hurt people along the way. Yes. And so my thing is, I know we're all about being lean and mean, and we're scrappy and we're entrepreneurs. But whether you give somebody this title or not, you need to have somebody that wakes up every day with the hat of chief people officer. Whether you physically have that person in your org chart, you need somebody that obsesses about the employee experience. Because if you can nail that experience, customer experience and market, all of that takes care of itself. But we bypass the internal stuff because we go and do. And then, but hey, people are in because they believe in the mission. And then TikTok, years go by, and then we realize, oh, damn, we've got some culture problems. Well, it's because the CEO and the founder was so focused on growing and scaling and building the business. And then we had a blinder on to the people that helped us build and grow it. And sometimes it's too late to look back. So my advice would be to be proactive. And before you get too big, appoint somebody on your team to be the chief people officer, because then culture can become your competitive advantage. Because here's the reality. We can steal or copy or mimic or mirror almost anything of any business. I can look at your technology. I can look at your product stack. I could look at your services. I can look at your marketing strategy. I can look at anything. And to some extent, I can rip it off. The only thing that I cannot rip off are your people. Their unique gifts, talents, abilities, passions, and skills. I can't do anything about that. That's your unique secret sauce, and that's your competitive advantage.
I love that. Having a chief people officer, it's evident which companies have someone in place, maybe not in that exact name of a role, but someone who is responsible for the morale of the office, keeping everybody afloat. Giving a ton of good examples today. I think it's a great time for the Spotlight story. We'll plug it again at the end, but you've been lights out. If everybody right now wants to find out where to find you online, where to find more about your company, all things Paul, where can they head?
PaulEpsteinSpeaks.com. My website, that is the hub for all things relative to speaking, thought leadership, the books. And also, there's a cool gift there that I want to share, because for me, everything we've been talking about is all about confidence, right? Like, you need confidence as an entrepreneur. You need confidence as a leader. You need confidence as a person, right? And so on my website, there's a free confidence quiz that literally in less than 5 minutes, it can tell our entire community here your confidence score of 1 to 100. So I just wanted to gift that from the heart. I believe that the entrepreneurial community will be much bigger, better, faster, and stronger if we can master our confidence. So just wanted to offer that quiz up at PaulEpsteinSpeaks.com.
I appreciate that. PaulEpsteinSpeaks.com. There's that free confidence quiz. I'll have that pasted in the show description. Thank you for that generous offer. And as far as the Spotlight story, as always, go down to the show description, follow along with Paul and I'm going to go over a bit, then bring him back on. It is written by Lisa Richard, who is a former Forbes Council member, as well as the founder and CEO of RPZL. It could be Ripzel. I'm not sure. I've never heard of the company, but she was at one time a two-time two-sport All-American athlete, played 2 sports in college, and started every game since she was a freshman. Voted both high school and college female athlete of the year, inducted into the college and high school's Hall of Fame. But post-graduation, she played pro lax, and it was for $100 per week. She had to make a change, and she wanted to share and give back to her experiences in this article, the 5 lessons she's learned from being an athlete that I believe other professionals can apply to their own workplaces. Become open to constructive criticism. I agree with that one. Learn to make split-second decisions. We talked a lot about judgment calls today. See the value in losing. As you get experience in this game, I found this to be learning lessons more than the loss. Develop an unwavering focus. And know that sometimes you'll need to make sacrifices. I'll touch on 2 of these before bringing back Paul. That last one right there, Athletes train all year for a single day. They give up their free time for the game. In business, making sacrifices is something part of the path to success as well. This is why it's important that you do what you love. Just like sports, I believe you are going to succeed at what you love. That said, you do still need to have a positive work-life balance. You need to prioritize job responsibilities and career alongside other important life essentials for her, family, friends, and fun. Making this balance is a priority, and if you do, I believe it will benefit both you and your company. Developing an unwavering focus, I think, is self-explanatory. Everyone out there, your commitment has to go a long way, valuing your time and that of others. And I also will touch on, though, here, see the value in losing before bringing him back on. In business, a chance of failing doesn't have to scare you. Even if succeeding seems impossible, it is important that you channel a feeling of excitement rather than dread. In sports, when you win a big game or score the winning goal, that feeling is one of the best feelings in the world. It becomes addicting and you want to do it again. And this is the same with business. Close a deal, execute a big marketing campaign that yields high results. You want that feeling to be mimicked and do it again and experience it again. But if you are afraid of trying because you're worried that you are going to fail or lose a game or miss a shot, you're never going to succeed or win. Now, Paul, with your experience in sports, your experience in entrepreneurship, what are some of your takeaways here?
Yeah, look, I think the number one point that you made there was about, how did you phrase it? Was it losing can be the greatest teacher? What was that one? That one really stood out. Basically, like, life is not about success and failure. It's about success and learning, right? And so you mentioned earlier how what drove you to be an entrepreneur was figuring out what you liked, what you didn't like, great culture, bad culture. I think it's kind of a fun analogy too, related to dating. Yeah. You got to date some crazy to find the one, right?
Oh yeah, that's certainly true.
Yeah, like, had I met the one in high school, like, I don't even know if I would have known what it is or appreciated it. So you got to kind of, like, play the field a little bit and then figure out, oh, I really like that. I didn't like that. I hated that. I love that. And then you kind of put the puzzle together and then when you know. And so that, to me, is one of those pieces where I think, especially, it could be a global problem, but especially in the US, where we over-index on success and it's all about KPIs and goals and metrics and all these external things. The challenge with that is, we always kind of measure success in an external way, but yet what people want, the more that they grow and mature and evolve, and the more they think about impact and legacy and living with purpose and on purpose, there's a big internal scoreboard, massive internal scoreboard. And here's the deal, though. Like, I get why not everybody's on that train yet. The key is yet, because when I used to be told about those things, and I was just some high flyer in sports, and I was climbing a ladder, I never really even questioned why I was climbing the ladder. I was just climbing. LinkedIn profile looks better by the day, by the week, by the month. They pay you more money. They give you a bigger title. You get more responsibilities. Check, check, check. And then it wasn't until I really discovered who I was on the inside. Frankly, the reason I'm no longer in sports day to day, the reason for my Jerry Maguire leap, there was a leadership offsite retreat when I was at the Niners that changed my life. And it was the first time that I figured out my why. I figured out my values. I started to understand my inside game. Yep. And now that I lock in on my inside game, I know who I am. I know what I stand for. And I have high awareness of how I need to show up. But I didn't have alignment in those areas before. I was winning the trophies, so that was external. But if you would have asked me, am I happy? Am I fulfilled? I'd be like, kind of, but who cares? That doesn't matter. Like, I'm winning. I'm winning. But it was winning the outside game. And now I have this complete inverse approach that, for me, when you master and conquer your inside game, the outside score starts to take care of itself. But when I was told that advice when I was younger, I didn't believe it to be true. Because if it's not broke, if you're not broken, if you're kicking ass, if you're succeeding, why would you change? Right? Even if you're a 7 out of 10 happy, 6 out of 10 fulfilled, but you're making a lot of money and you're winning and you're surrounding yourself with people that tell you how awesome you are,
Yep.
It's really hard to change
Mm-hmm.
when life isn't broken. And so we've all heard this from other thought leaders and others, but I love this analogy of what's the greater pain, the
Mm-hmm.
pain of same or the pain of change. And for me, while there was some pain in my former life, the pain of change wasn't worth it until I figured out who I am on the inside. And then I'm like, all right, cool. I got to take this leap. I got to make this move. I
Yep.
got to step into this critical fork in the road with greater confidence, because once you figure out who you are, there's no work you, there's no personal you, there's just
Mm-hmm.
you. And I'm
Yep.
not being woo woo here. Okay. You're talking to somebody that was a high performer and all the trophies in the world from the sports industry. I'm not about the woo woo stuff. I'm about taking action and taking ownership. And that's who I am. But I also understand that, like, if you're not aware of who you are on the inside, then life is just, it's a game that you only see half of the board. You only see half of the board. And so this very much feels like this matrix type of evolution where you're like, oh, got it. Now I understand the real game that we're playing. But I had to go through the chapters. I had to go through those steps. Yep. I had to go through the bad dates. I had to go through the failures and the learning lessons. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the emotional context that I do today.
I love that. And thank you for sharing such a response that can relate to so many out there, where even me working in finance, I had more money than I had, but I was just unfulfilled like yourself, making that leap of believing in myself. Everyone out there, you can too. But before we let you go, which entrepreneur are you choosing to sit down with, dead or alive?
I would, and I know that this answer has been given you before, but I'm going to explain why. And I hope it's different from other explanations. So a common answer is Steve Jobs. I want to sit down with Steve because of his reputation. I don't mean this in a bad way, but I don't care that he built Apple. That's great. That's cool. I use the products. Awesome. I'm very happy that he birthed this, that really he was there at the beginning, and obviously he had a successful round 2. But what I want to talk to him is how he treated people.
Yep.
Because that's his reputation. Great results, not so easy to work with. And I'm being very polite when I say it that way.
Yep.
But I want to ask him, like, did you not care? Were you aware? Like,
were you aware?
Genuinely, like, is this reputation? I mean, it's true because so many people have validated it. Why? Because I believe, and this is my honest opinion, if I was to reflect back on my worst moments, I was just unaware. When I've hurt people, when my team wouldn't have run through a wall for me, which they shouldn't have on my worst days. On my best days, they'd follow me to the end of the earth and back. On my worst days, I wouldn't follow myself. And here's the thing. I know I have a good heart, but good people can have bad behaviors when they're unaware.
Yep.
Good people can have bad behaviors when they're unaware. So when I sit down with Steve, I just want to know, were you aware? Were you aware that you were treating people this way? Were you aware of how it was impacting their health, their morale, their happiness, their lives? Or was it just purely about business and you didn't care? I would just really want to know that.
I love that. Well, let's take it a step further. Where are you sitting down with Steve?
Oh man, I have a feeling he wouldn't need any truth serum, but let's pretend we got some beverages and let's go down to Cabo.
I love it. Well, I want to thank you so much again for reaching out. Today we're going from California all the way to Florida. One more time with all your contact info.
PaulEpsteinSpeaks.com. Anything and everything, including a free confidence quiz, is there. So just hit up the website, PaulEpsteinSpeaks.com, and I'm fired up to continue the journey.
All right, everyone, be sure to scroll down in the description. And we are at That Entrepreneur Show on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I am at Vincent A. Lancy on all social media and YouTube. Be sure to head to YouTube for a video clip from today's show. And until next week, we are signing off.